Well, I had only ever worked for one organisation. I worked for the Royal Bank of Scotland for 34 years, so I was what's commonly known as a lifer with the Royal Bank. But I'd had sort of a few mini careers within that time, and I did spend about 5 years as an executive assistant, which I really enjoyed, and is what sort of inspired me to think about this role afterwards. But the last 15 years of my time with the Royal Bank, I was actually in a specialist HR function, and I do now offer HR services as well as virtual assistances as part of my SmartPA journey. Um, yeah, well, I'd kind of reached the time in RBS where I felt that I wanted to try something a bit different before it was too late. I wasn't getting any younger, and I decided I wanted to try something new. And I knew there was potentially an opportunity for redundancy coming along at some point, and therefore a few months before I did start to think about what is it I might want to do, and I kind of assessed, well, what had I done to date? What were the parts of my career to date that I really enjoyed, that I thought, I did very well in, that I got the biggest kick out of, and it kept coming back around to it was this time as an executive assistant. I really enjoyed my time doing that. I enjoyed being in the thick of it, being very reactive, very operational, solving problems left, right, and centre. I really enjoyed that part of my career, and I thought if I was going to do something different, I wanted to do something that I really enjoyed, and I enjoyed the HR side as well. But I thought, how can I use these skills and parts of the job that I enjoyed most? And then I guess the virtual assistant thing, sort of fancied being my own boss, but I was probably a little bit too scared to just go and set up on my own. I didn't really have the confidence, being quite institutionalized, to do that. So I started just doing some research a full year probably before I even approached SmartPA. I started to do some research, and of course, when I researched, I came across SmartPA, and realised there was this franchise opportunity, and it just kind of went from there, really. So it was just looking into it and identifying that's what I wanted to do in the first instance. Yeah, I mean, it was crazy at the start. It was, it made it a much bigger decision in terms of whether to continue or whether to stop. You know, Nobody knew what was going to happen, and I was asking the questions of a head office, like, "Oh, do you think I should do this?" And they were sort of saying, "Well, the phones are still ringing at the moment. People are busy. It depends." They didn't know, so they were very honest about that as well. But they were pretty confident that all this was going to mean was more remote working. It was going to be accepted more quickly than it already was being. And I don't know. For me, the timing was probably perfect, because when I signed on the dotted line, I had 3 months of training to do, and I was doing some networking and stuff, and I think the other partners in the head office would say as well that kind of March, April time, there was a little bit of everybody just sort of froze, everything just kind of went static and nothing very much was happening. But at that time, my head was down and I was training. I'd already left the bank by this time. My head was down in training. So timing wise, I was probably quite fortunate, because by the time I got my training completed, I did it a little bit more slowly than I maybe intended. Took 2 or 3 months to do it. And then by the time I came out of that, I actually found things had picked up again. And I've definitely not there been found any shortage of available work out there. I've been incredibly busy. I mean, I think at the last count, I've got 5 retained clients and 2 that I do ad hoc business with fairly frequently. And that was August, I think, the beginning of August, I think I launched. I actually found it quite positive, because in the doom and the gloom of COVID, and there's certain industries have been so badly hit, obviously hospitality, retail, etc., that you kind of, in one sense, feel the whole world's come to a stop. But for me, through the networking and working with my clients, it's actually been something that's lifted me a bit to think, well, actually, the whole world hasn't really stopped. There's actually lots of really good stuff, lots of really, really busy people out there that are desperate for support. And it's very sad that travel and retail and hospitality has been impacted. Hopefully it comes back, but there's definitely been life out there for sure, I found personally. So yeah, it's been fine. Yeah, I mean, I think, as I said before, I like the idea of being my own boss. I like the idea of having a degree of flexibility, and having lots of variety and things like that. But I didn't maybe have the confidence to actually just step out there and do it alone. And I think that was the attraction for me to the SmartPA model. I kind of realized, and I'm kind of moving on a bit, but I guess once I started speaking to the team there, for example, after I'd sort of done my initial research, the attraction really was that, well, there were great like-minded people round about, seemed to kind of fit with me and my personal values as well. But I think it was more just that, there was a way to be my own boss, but to also have the support of the head office when I needed it. And also, as I've gone on to find, which I probably didn't appreciate as much at the time, but the support and connections you make with the other partners, So yes, I wanted to work on my own. I wanted to be my own boss, but I think I'd really find it quite isolating if it was just you completely on your own. I like that I'm part of a team, although I'm on my own as well, if that makes, I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I think, it was it couldn't have been, any easier, really. I mean, I raised an inquiry initially online. A sort of mini questionnaire came back, and from there they offered me to talk to someone. So this is kind of before I've made up my mind, but I think it's important to talk about that, because that all was part of the onboarding process for me. If that hadn't gone so well and hadn't felt so friendly and welcoming and patience to answer all the questions I had, then I probably wouldn't have got to the onboarding process. So I really like that part up front. There was someone on the end of a phone I could speak to. It wasn't just a website or emails. It was, the line was there. I could phone at any time to answer any questions or concerns. Bear in mind, I was doing all this, I think I signed on the dotted line on the day of the first lockdown or something like that. It was like the world was going crazy at the time I was signing up to this, and I needed that, like, kind of someone to talk to, and they were always there. And yeah, from there on in, it was just made really, really straightforward. There was a few forms to fill in. I mean, obviously there's the opportunity to take the business loan, if you want to do the startup loan, if you want to do that. And in terms of giving you the right introductions, the connections, supplying you with the tools you need, such as your business plan, your forecast. There was templates provided. In terms of starting your own business, it was really made quite easy for someone who's never done it before. It always worked in a corporate organization, so they kept you right in all the things you needed to think about. You know, all sorts of things, from registering for VAT, the whole shebang, with the information commission officer, things I would never have known about. They kept you right with all that. So yeah, it was easy. And then I feel I'm very fortunate. I'm based in Edinburgh, so I was actually able to come in and do a visit, actually, in the offices, and I was just overwhelmed with how welcoming people were, how much time they all took to meet with me individually. From Sarah, everyone came and met with me. And I know they do that normally virtually if you're not in Edinburgh, but the whole team was just, the vibe about the place and the openness as well, and the honesty, I found really great. So yeah, onboarding, can't remember it's in any great detail, so I think that's because that's a good thing, not a bad thing. um, this is, I don't know. For me personally, I think it is, a big part of it for me is feeling really, really valued, feeling indispensable, feeling that you know you're making a difference to people. And that might just be for me personally, because having worked in such a large corporate organization for a very long time, I think it is quite difficult. No matter how hard you work, how much you put in, you can just become a cog in a wheel and feel a little bit kind of lost in there. And so I think I'd got to that point in RBS. I was feeling a bit sort of undervalued, and that there was no recognition anymore for what you put in. Whereas I find working with these small business or medium business owners, they are just so grateful for your help, so grateful for your support. You know, they tell you that all the time. You can see what a difference you're making to them. And for me, that's personal motivation. So that's a big factor for me. It's that kind of that motivation to get up and do the job every day. And that's a part of it that SmartPA has ticked massively. So obviously that, and then the other big one is the flexibility. You know, I've certainly probably been busier than I planned to be, and I think being a business owner, once you're there, it's hard to say no and hard to turn down work. So I'm not going to, you know, put any pretenses on that. It's still hard work, but I like the flexibility that if I really do need a day off or, you know, an afternoon off, then as long as I work with my clients, I can manage that okay. And equally, I don't intend to work necessarily full time. I'm doing full time just now. I chose to do full time, but I don't necessarily want to keep doing that for forevermore. I'm 54 now, so within the next few years, I would probably like to step down. But I don't think I'll feel ready to give up work. But I like the fact that I can potentially just keep on, you know, a smaller number of clients and keep my hand in, but not have to work full time. So that's a big thing for me as well. I think the biggest thing I would say is don't let imposter syndrome get in your way. You know, you can do this. There is plenty of support, as I said earlier, from head office and from the partner network as well. I mean, I nearly didn't do it because of imposter syndrome, a lack of confidence. And even though I had done some quite big jobs in the bank, I kind of felt, oh yeah, but I only know how to do things in that organization, and I've never had to go out there and, you know, I'm getting on a bit now, and I don't really know how social media, you know, works, and what if that comes up, and, you know, some of the technology that people use, you know, you learn these things, you pick them up, you know, you research them, you pick them up, or you don't take on clients that don't do the thing, you know, that don't tick your boxes, if you know what I mean. You sort of can stick to what you're good at if you want. But I mean, I've learned loads, absolutely loads since I've been here, and it's been relatively easy. But I think to do so, not always easy is the wrong word, it's challenging, but you manage it. And I think it's that belief that, oh, I don't know, and I'll never find clients. So there's two things. There's the imposter syndrome, and the second thing for me would be don't under undervalue or underestimate the power of networking, and don't be frightened of networking, because that was the thing that probably I was thinking, oh, I can't do networking, I've never had to do networking, I can't do it, I can't do sales, I think I said that at my visit to head office, I can't do sales, I don't do sales. And they're like, but you don't really do sales, you just have conversations with people and tell them how they can help you and how you can help them. And if they say, oh, I don't need your help, you go, that's fine, and you move on to the next person. It's not selling. But I had this preconception it was selling, and it isn't selling. It absolutely isn't selling, but it absolutely is networking. And you do, for me, I I don't know. I don't think I've sold. I don't believe I've sold anything, but I've got 7 clients. And most of them have come to me through just going along and getting to know people and having conversations at networking events. And I don't even think anything of that conversation. And then suddenly 3 months later, they've come to me and went, "Remember we had that conversation 3 months ago? I think I might need some help." I'm like, "Oh yeah, great, let's talk." I was terrified of networking before I started, and that nearly made me not do it. But you have to be able to be willing to speak to people. But that's pretty much all it is, just going and having conversations with people. And my other big tip was, if you do decide to sign up, don't wait till you've done your training to start your networking. Just do it throughout your training. Just join these free groups and say, "Hi, I'm new to this game." Be dead honest. I'm really new. I've never done it before. I've started, you know, this is my journey. This is where I am. I've just come along to say hello. And people are so welcoming and so helpful and give you so many tips. It's great. So yeah, don't be scared of networking, and don't let imposter syndrome get in your way. If this is something you really want to do, you'll be able to do it.